All right, welcome to Operation American Dream. I'm your host, Craig Sewing. Very excited to be here with you. This is a show that is honoring those who fight in the country that they fight for. And what better place to produce this show than San Diego, California, a military town. We got a great show lined up with my co-host, John Reeves. Today, we're going to go deep into the opportunity to own a home if you've served. This is going to apply to you if you're a civilian. You're going to love this message. And if you have served, we're going to show you some great strategies today. Let's go ahead and get this show started right now. All right, let's get this show started. Joining me in studio, he is a Marine captain. He is now a successful business owner, and I'm proud to call him my good friend. John Reeves steps in to co-host Operation American Dream. Good to have you here, man.
It's great to be a co-host with you, Craig.
You've hosted radio, you've run businesses, you've got that entrepreneurial spirit, and so what are we diving into today?
I think really it's about the love of the veteran. Being a veteran myself, enlisting in the Marine Corps, coming out here to San Diego for the first time, 1996. I enlisted at a young age because I wanted to serve our country. I wanted to be a part of something bigger than myself, which veterans in our country is only 1% of the entire population. It's a very, very small segment of our population, but they especially now with today's wars, there is a tremendous amount of sacrifice. And the wars in the past, of course. World War II, Korea, the Cold War, there is a tremendous amount of sacrifice our veterans have made to serve and defend our country.
So this show's really designed for you. If you've served in the military, we want to honor you. We want to share your stories. We're going to be bringing in amazing guests. But also, if you didn't serve in the military, you'd be like me. I'm just a civilian that is so thankful for the freedoms these guys have created for us and protect day in and day out. The show's going to be great for you as well because you're going to learn a lot. It's going to give you the opportunity to support. We'll be featuring charities. We'll be doing a lot of things around financial literacy, sharing the stories of heroes. So it really is going to be an incredible opportunity for you to support our military. If you're just like me, you didn't serve, but you want to just get behind something that's amazing. So John, I know we got a great show lined up today. Each show we're going to be diving into something that is a niche, right? Like today we're going to focus on real estate. You fight to protect this land. We're going to show you how you can own a piece of it and all the things that come along with it, a space you know really well about. I originally have a background in mortgage, so I'm going to be diving into finance a little bit later with Scott Boaman. What do we have in store on the real estate front?
Well, we're going to talk about housing. We're going to talk about some of the successes that we've had in housing, but most importantly, we want to inspire, impact, and improve the lives of the veterans listening. Housing is near and dear to every one of our hearts. We have to have a place to live.
You need food, you need water, you need shelter.
That's it. It's one of the core needs that what we all have. So ultimately, you're either going to pay your mortgage or you're going to pay someone else's. Our whole goal is to show people how they can own a piece of the country they served and the country that they fought for. Very, very near and dear to your heart as well as mine. Yep. So, like you said, it's all about inspiring, impacting, and improving the lives of our veterans. That's really what this is about.
And I'm sure we'll have some opinions along the way, but this is one of the things I'd say the government gets right. The fact that you can buy a house with no money down is a pretty incredible opportunity for those who have served. So today we're going to be talking, if you're a renter, that's okay. We're going to give you a lot of advice. If you're looking to own, we'll help you understand that a little bit better, or maybe you do own. What are the opportunities that exist for you? But let's go ahead, John. Let's dive into our first round of guests, shall we?
Let's rock and roll.
All right, let's do it. All right, now time for our first guest. This is exciting. She better be good, man. You line this one up.
Good is enemy of great, Craig. This is a great one. So.
Yeah, Alanna, Strei, you come out of the real estate space. You served in the Navy, so thank you for your service. We'd love to hear that story before we dive into all this financial and real estate literacy stuff. So tell us about your service.
I joined the military. I was commissioned as a naval officer in 2008 after I had a ROTC scholarship to University of San Diego, right out here in San Diego. I went there from 2004 to 2008, and then I served active duty from 2008 until 2015. I finished up my time there, did my 3 more years, got my GI Bill, got my VA loan, and then got a master's degree from USC, and then I rolled right into real estate so I could help other veterans.
So, Alanna, question. What is it that drew you to the military? What was it about the U.S. military that drew you in?
I was raised as a military brat myself, so I spent a lot of time moving around, and I really loved the camaraderie and meeting new people and like kind of just making friends everywhere that I went. And then on top of that, I noticed that my father had really reaped some benefits. He had this VA loan. He never had student loans to deal with, and he really pushed me to kind of look forward and say, hey, you know, you can graduate and go do what your friends do, or you can go make a difference in the country. And so I decided that would be better for me.
Now, you're an interesting story because you bought your first home in 2011 as an active duty naval officer. Then you opted to rent out one of the rooms on Airbnb, which you've been on Airbnb, their website, you won a commercial drawing. I mean, you
hundreds of thousands of views on Airbnb.
And I can see why. I understand, you know, why. She's got a great story. But tell us a little bit about that. You literally paid your way to getting a master's degree using an Airbnb rental from one of your rooms.
I did.
So tell us about that.
So I had a roommate, like most people do when you're single and you're young, and I think I was 26 when I bought my first property. Using that VA loan, I never would have been able to do it otherwise, but I had roommates, and you know roommates, they can get really, really quite an imposition on your personal life and your space, and all their stuff's everywhere, their boyfriends everywhere, it's exhausting. So finally someone said to me, have you ever considered Airbnb? And I said, that's so weird, why would I want people in my house? Like and then they told me how much money I could make. And I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. And so I ended up making, I was averaging $2,600 a month for my second bedroom, 2-bedroom, 2-bath. Wow. And I was doing things like charging a minimum fee per night, extra nights for extra guests, et cetera. And it ended up being supplementary income for me to be able to transition out of the military and get my master's.
So quick timeout. Just in case you're wondering what Airbnb is. Airbnb is like a hotel, but it's a virtual hotel system.
The number one hotel system in the United States that doesn't own a hotel.
Owns no hotels.
It's like Uber being number one for taxis without a car.
It's the Uber of hotels. It puts people in places. You can either do a whole house, or in Alanna's case, you can actually do one room, so a one-room rental. So
what I love about the story real quick here is that you bought your house at 26 years old, which is a daunting thing when you think as a 26-year-old buying a house, but the way that she was able to do that was through VA financing. So you did the no money down thing. Not a bad gig.
Not at all.
Yeah, so that's one thing I think the government really gets right, is you don't have to put any money down if you've served in the military.
Certainly, and I mean, think about 26 years old buying your first home in a city like San Diego, and there's a lot of cities that the military stationed in where price points are high, very high. I mean, Washington, D.C., I mean, there's another high price point. San Diego, because you had a government program, a VA, FHA, you were able to purchase your first home, get it immediately, rent it out, or not immediately, but pretty quickly rent it out. As far as income, you said per month. What was it bringing in?
$2,600 on and off month.
How are you helping people do this now? Because isn't this something that you've gone deep in? And I'd love to give some advice to others.
So $2,600 a month in income from renting out a bedroom.
Right.
Okay, so how
pays your mortgage?
My mortgage was $2,345 initially. I had foolishly, so I didn't have to. I just put my closing costs down because my realtor actually was wonderful, but she wasn't educated on veterans or VA, and so I actually used an FHA loan foolishly because nobody knew better. And so when I refinanced into a VA loan, my payments dropped immediately. I didn't have to pay private mortgage insurance. I was already making a profit on my mortgage using Airbnb. My mortgage was about $2,345. When I dropped to a VA loan, it went down to $1,800. So I was making a solid profit on my mortgage month after month.
So Alanna, if you were to go back and talk to yourself 5 years ago, what advice would you give to yourself, the veterans we have listening, even the non-veterans, active duty members, what advice would you give to them now sitting where you are?
This one's really easy. I wish I could go back in time and help myself. The first thing would be, I took a personal recommendation on a realtor as opposed to finding one that really knew my needs. And this was just a family friend, somebody who was really nice, but just didn't know anything about veterans or the VA, and really missed an opportunity for me. Over 5 years, I paid $15,000 in private mortgage insurance. That's money that doesn't go toward equity toward my home, doesn't go toward tax write-offs because of my mortgage interest, nothing. And if I had worked with a realtor who knew better and knew about veterans and the VA loan, I could have saved myself that money throughout the entire process. So find an expert with your opportunities like the VA loan. And then the other thing is I would have bought a multi-unit. I bought into a condo complex. It was beautiful. It's very safe, gated, great for when I was on deployment. But now I know as a VA buyer, I can buy a multi-unit. I can buy a duplex or a triplex and have that same passive income all over again, not just from one bedroom, but from other units.
Love it. Well, you're out of the hot seat. Great stuff. Thank you for empowering us with some advice today. If you've served in the military, you want to get more advice, connect with her online. Alanna, thank you so much. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
More Operation American Dream coming up next. All right, welcome back to the show. So first one down, great guest. Alanna was amazing. She's clearly someone who's not just leveraged the VA opportunity, but also now she teaches on it.
Yep, she
cool.
gets it and then she pays it forward, which is what that's our goal. As veterans, we pay it forward to everyone else.
I love the stories of vets who serve protecting our freedom and then continue to serve. And we got another one here, Ed Hauser. I'm going to let you introduce him. So
Ed, I mean, Ed's a Naval Academy graduate, went to the Naval Academy, became a submarine officer, graduated in 2005. Ed then went to work in the corporate world when he got out. Now he is transitioned into real estate. So he's out there helping fellow veterans purchase, sell homes. Done a tremendous job. He's got a really interesting story because he's a guy who was in Afghanistan, decided it was time for him to own a piece of the American dream. So he decided he was going to buy a place and own his first home while not even seeing it. Didn't see it, bought it from Afghanistan. Tell us a little about your story and what you're doing now.
Story of service first.
Yeah,
anytime I hear submarine, I want to hear a good story.
Yeah.
So
we have some good
he's
ones
like,
too.
which one can I share?
Which one can I share? Submarines was very interesting, to say the least.
Unreal.
I don't know exactly when it was growing up that I wanted to become a member of the military, but going through some old stuff that my mom had laying around, I saw some doodling from 4th grade, and I was drawing ships and aircraft, so apparently it was before then. And so after graduating the Naval Academy, I went submarines, very detail-oriented, sometimes very covert about what we do. But it's a great group of people who work together towards a common goal, hardworking people, and so I really liked that. And then I went to Afghanistan. I built roads and schools and medical facilities for the Afghan people, and it was really a life-changing experience, probably the most fulfillment I've ever gotten out of anything. And so did a couple more years in the military and then transitioned out. And I went from the military, where I was, most important thing was serving my country and my fellow people, to the corporate world. And I worked at a big aerospace company for a couple of years. And really, I was feeling that I was lacking that connection both to the military community and to the community in general. And so I decided to find something new. And so I got involved with Reef Real Estate and veteran-owned and operated business, and it really just fit the mark. I got to be an entrepreneur. I got to help people. I got to most especially help veterans, especially young sailors.
And you're taking care of veterans every single day. Ed has the opportunity that every single day you get to work with and change veterans' lives.
So explain how.
Yeah, tell us about that.
So no one sat me down when I was a young officer and said, this is how you make financial stability for yourself for the rest of your life. No one sat. The Navy, the best training the Navy does for the financial future is when you get out of the Navy.
Which is common, and a lot of us say the same thing. So, all right, go ahead.
And so the best thing about that is that I've been able to sit down with junior members and tell them, look, not only can we help you find a home that you can own rather than renting, paying someone else's mortgage, but the long-term aspects and the long-term financial goals, and showing them that purchasing can, if they do it in the right market and they hold on to it long enough, can really provide long-term financial freedom for them.
Well, very important, because it is empowering. It's owning a part of what we call the American dream.
Absolutely.
We served a country, let's own a piece of it. If you could talk to any of our fellow veterans out there now, active duty or former, what would you tell them, looking back from what you knew now? Same thing we asked Alanna. What would you go back and tell them?
I would tell them find a real estate agent who knows the military and who understands where those people are coming from and who has extreme levels of knowledge of the market. I used a friend of a friend to buy my first home, and there were a lot of things about the local market. I bought in Virginia.
Right.
There were a lot of things about the local market I didn't know. There was a lot of guesswork. Some of my guesses turned out to be correct. Some of them turned out to be false. And so the most important thing is to find someone you can trust who has a deep level of knowledge.
As a country, are we getting better, at least, with educating you guys as you get out?
Absolutely. So when I started, the guys getting out would get kind of a half day of, welcome to the real world, and then get kicked out the door. And now it's much more involved, both from the Veterans Administration showing people, what benefits they have when they get out, but also preparing people for the transition to civilian careers.
Well, Ed, thank you for your service. Thank you for continuing to serve those who protect our freedoms in the real estate sector.
And for making a difference. Thanks for making a difference. Ed, you impact lives. So
awesome. Well, it's good to know we're getting better. You know, I've always been troubled by that gap between your guys' service and that real world experience when it comes to finances and home ownership and everything's so important to being a civilian, which I know is tough. All right, great. Thanks, Ed. More of the Operation American Dream coming up next.
I spent most of my career working for the same company.
When it came time for a career change, it was in my mind that things were going to be easy.
I wasn't getting hired, and I couldn't understand why.
The hiring manager looked at me like I was speaking another language.
And that's when it all made sense to me.
Wow, there's 500,000.
500,000. 500,000 unemployed military veterans in the United States.
So I decided to reach out for help.
With career coaching and employment workshops, Hire Heroes USA empowers military members, veterans, and spouses in their job search at no cost to them. Go to hireheroesusa.org to learn more.
All right, we promised you we're going to go deep on real estate today. Benjamin Hobbs now joins us in studio, served in the military. Now he's going to share with you some advice on residential real estate and some of the bumpy roads. It's not always up.
Not always a cakewalk.
Yeah.
Ben, great story. Enlisted. He was enlisted in the U.S. Navy. Out of high school, he enlisted. Then from being an enlisted sailor, transitioned to the U.S. Naval Academy. From the Naval Academy, became an officer. So he's been on both sides of the fence, enlisted side and the officer side. Tell us what brought you to the military quickly, Ben. What brought you into the military in the first place?
Service. I always knew that I wanted to serve. So when 18, I told the recruiters, hey, don't call me. I'll come see you guys when I'm ready. And I did.
Really?
2 weeks after I turned 18.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah, thank you.
So where are you now?
Right now, I'm working for Reef Point Realty, a veteran-owned and operated real estate group that's here in San Diego, and I'm loving it. I'm loving learning all about it.
So you transitioned into real estate after you got out of the Marine Corps. You did some work in the private industry, got tired of that, and said, I want to do something differently. Tell us what it is you're doing now. But before that, tell us briefly about your first experience in real estate in '04 when you bought a home, because this is kind of the cakewalk that not everyone. It was not a cakewalk. Tell us, because there's some negatives to it. It's not all sunshine. Tell us a little bit about the experience.
Right, not all sunshine and rainbows at all. So in 2004, I bought a home with my brother in Northern California. That's where we're from. And the experience just didn't go well. The whole escrow was really kind of long, drawn out. All we were doing was signing stuff, putting our names on stuff. It didn't really feel like we knew what was happening. And then we had a house. And
it was '04, hot market, funny money loans. There was all kinds of craziness going on. So what happened?
You said you did use the VA financing at least.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, that's actually the one thing that happened that was right. Our realtor didn't understand the VA loan, and so it was never even brought up to me that, hey, this is something that's available to you.
We've never heard that before, Ben.
Right,
We've never heard that before.
So no, that's the one thing that went right, actually.
Buying in San Diego, California, how can a realtor not understand the benefit of VA loan? And in a moment, we're going to be speaking with Scott Boaman to give you all the advice you need from the finance side, but continue.
So in 2007, actually, was when I went to Iraq for the entire year. So I came back from Iraq in 2008. The market had changed drastically.
That's a very, very tactful way of saying it. Changed drastically.
And my brother and I found ourselves kind of in a bad way in this home. Put a lot of strain on my family. And in the end, we ended up short selling it. But I mean, everything's fine. No issues there. But I learned that home buying was not for me, not something that I wanted to pursue in the future. I always wanted to rent. Renting's better. I'm a Marine. Keep it expeditionary. Keep able to move around. And so that was where I was.
Well, it's good that you short sold and didn't foreclose. So that can allow you to protect your credit a bit and get back on track. So fast forward us to today and what you're helping people do.
So today I've learned mostly that rule number one for myself, don't be that realtor. Don't be my former realtor. And I make it as educational a process for the families that I serve as possible. I just want to make sure that you understand that, the families I serve, there's a process. It's not a transaction. And I try and include them and give them as much knowledge so that they feel like, A, they're included, and B, they know what's going on.
Well, I think that's one of the biggest shortfalls we have in our industry, in the real estate industry, is there's a lack of education and communication. It's probably any industry out there. I mean, there's lack of communication everywhere, but there's a lack of knowledge on, okay, this is your long-term strategy, because buying is not tactical. buying a home is strategic. It is a long-term solution. So that's a common theme that Craig and I have both heard many times, Ben.
And let's be honest, when you're serving a military buyer, it is a niche type of buyer. So it's different. It's different than someone like me who's buying a house who hasn't served in the military. The financing guidelines, the contracts, everything's different. And if the real estate community, look, getting a real estate license is not that complicated. If you don't learn this stuff, you got contracts, earnest deposits. I mean, you're seriously at risk. And
well,
sounds
Craig,
like
you hit the nail on the head. It takes 3 months to get a real estate license. It takes 18 months to be able to give a $10 haircut. There's a problem with that model.
Something's off.
It's way, way off. So it makes sense. That's why it's really inspiring to hear that you're taking care of people, doing the right things right in that order, and making sure that veterans, our veterans who served our country, fought for it, went overseas, are doing it the right way, and they're getting the right treatment. So
appreciate that. And last but not least, financing is awesome, right? That's the one thing. I know there's plenty of things, I'm sure, but one thing our government does get right is this idea of 100% financing for those who've served.
Agreed.
All right. Well, appreciate you coming in here, sharing your story, and thank you for your service.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
All right, coming up next, we've talked enough about the real estate market, the opportunities for you if you've served, but I want to go deeper on the actual finance side of it. How does this work? The VA financing, money down, interest rates, mortgage insurance. I'm sure you have a lot of questions. We're bringing in Scott Boaman, one of the top VA lenders in the country, right here out of San Diego, coming up on Operation American Dream next. All right, so we've gone deep into the real estate market and all the opportunities that exist with it. Well, it's one thing to find a home or a rental, as we discussed. It's another thing to be able to get the financing for it. Here joining us in studio, he's a civilian like me. However, he does honor our military by serving VA loans. He's going to give you a lot of advice on it today. Scott Boaman from Synergy One Lending joins us in studio. Good to have you, man.
Great to be here.
So you've been coming on the American Dream, my show, for a while now.
Correct.
We talk about conventional, FHA, so you can do all of it. But VA is niche to the military, so that's what we want to drill down on here today.
Great.
Well, let's set some backdrop here. 30 years of experience in lending.
Correct.
So
You're
30
like,
years.
Thanks for aging me.
I've done a few loans. Yeah.
So you've enormous amount of experience.
I do. Yeah, so, and I love serving the veteran community on this. Phenomenal way for me to be able to give back in the form of great service and great programs. So
one thing that's been a recurring theme here today is that, and this came from the real estate side, that a lot of realtors don't understand the VA benefit or how to navigate the San Diego marketplace with VA financing. Do you find that on your end as well, helping
I do.
On that side?
A lot of people don't want to do VA loans because they think there's a lot of complications to it, which there are some, but there's not an extreme amount. You just have to know what you're doing.
So, Scott, what do you think, or what have you seen from the industry? Because, I mean, great breadth of experience here. In your time in the industry, what are the biggest misconceptions you've seen recurring over and over again?
Yeah, there's a few. I think the biggest one is that people think it's going to be this long, drawn-out process because you're going to get a VA loan.
Sure.
Not even close to that. We control, at Synergy One, we control the entire process except for the appraisal. That's really the only thing that we don't do specifically. But the beauty is, but as soon as that contract is accepted, we're ordering that appraisal. So we're not waiting on that. So we're closing most of our VA deals. I know we've done a couple together where we're closing in 18, 17 days on them. So
speed is a big misconception.
Big misconception. That's one of the biggest.
What's the next biggest?
Costs that the seller in a purchase transaction that they're going to have to pay, which that does not have to be the case and is not a lot that the seller has to pay.
Speak to the perks. I've mentioned that throughout the show today, that it's one of the things the government gets right, but I haven't fulfilled the statement. So we got you in here now. If someone has served in the military, what is the benefit that they get versus someone like me who hasn't served? What's the opportunity?
Well, the biggest one is no money down. I mean, that's the biggest one, is they're going to have to come in with no money of their own for the down payment. Secondly, is the interest rates are going to be a little bit lower as compared to a regular conventional product, so they're going to get a benefit in the rate. And then also, because you put little or none down, you would normally have mortgage insurance. You don't have that involved with a veteran. So you eliminate mortgage insurance entirely. And that's a couple $100 depending on the loan amount. So that's huge in the monthly budget for the vet to be able to.
It's one of those no risk, high reward. I mean, the risk, we just spoke with Ben. There is some risk in a real estate market, but even so, it's not like you had to put money down with a VA loan. So you're risking the bank's money, not yours.
Well, think about it this way. If you didn't spend any of your money and you got in, and even if you didn't make any equity, were you still ahead?
Right.
You were, because you still took advantage of the tax benefits from your deductions on your income taxes.
So I got a unique question for you, Scott. We keep hearing about low inventory in the real estate market. There's not many homes for sale. So that would mean that if you put your home on the market or a home hits the market, that there's going to be a bunch of offers on it. I keep hearing how VA buyers get snubbed out for the cash buyer, the conventional buyer. How do you overcome that?
I contact every listing agent that we put an offer in, and I let them know, look, here's our deal. We're ready to close fast. We're ready to put this together. You're not going to net any less. Put together a seller's net sheet. We even know that's not our side of it, but we can let them know, here's the cost that you might think you're going to be paying, but you're not. So we explain it very clearly that this is just as good, if not better, than any other offer that they're going to get on the table, whether it's conventional, even cash. We'll compete with that because the time period's going to be fast.
You know, my parents still live in the house I was raised in 40-something years. And I couldn't imagine, they're back in St. Louis, Missouri. I couldn't imagine if they put their home on the market and there was 10 offers, and one was a cash buyer, a flipper, you know, all the other examples I could give. I couldn't imagine them being more intrigued by that, even if it was a similar offer versus someone who served in our military.
Right.
You know, so I think by you calling the listing agent, sharing the story, I would have to feel like that at least tugs on the heartstrings a little bit of the person selling in the community that they've been in.
I would think so. I would agree. I would hope so.
Well, and you've seen it work. I mean, you've done this
all the
now
time.
Many years. So, the last question I'll say is, why would a veteran not use their VA loan? So a veteran's talking to you about doing a normal transaction. Why wouldn't they use it?
Good question. And that's hard. I don't know if there is a time. Probably the only time they would maybe not consider it is if they knew they were only going to be in this property for maybe a year or 2 years, and then they were going to sell it at the end of that, and they had to pay their funding fee. Because if you pay 2% in your funding fee, about 2.1%, you know, you add that on to your value, then you're going to pay your 5% roughly in your commission when you go to sell, plus your closing costs. So you're going to. So I would say if they're going to sell very, very soon, maybe not use the VA loan.
Well, at the end of the day, when people reach out to you, we hope you can give them options.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's really what it boils down to, doing a 30-year versus 15 and FHA versus VA. Scott Boaman is a skilled VA loan expert. By the way, if you haven't served in the military and you're like me and you just support, don't forget you can buy a home with, what, 3% down? It's not the end of the world.
You can, that's right. Well, and the other thing that we didn't really touch on is we have our grant program that goes right in line with the veterans, to where we can use the grant program that we have to pay for their funding fee and their closing costs. So the huge benefit is we can get a vet in with zero money out of their pocket. Wow. Zero.
Good deal.
Big, big benefit.
Putting a roof over their head.
Yeah.
Well, Scott Boaman, thank you, sir, for helping us to round this off. We talked a lot about real estate, but it's good to hit the finance side as well, and that's where a lot of these perks come from. All right, my friend.
Great.
John Reeves, we are through all of our guests today. We went deep on real estate and finance, got the first one down, honoring those who fight in the country they fight for. I'll close this thing up, but anything in parting?
I'm happy to be a part of something. We inspire, we impact, we improve lives, and that's what this is about.
You know, we talked earlier about the gap from when you guys have served and then out into civilian world. I hope that we every day can be here closing that gap.
Closing the gap.
Right, so don't forget, you can visit us online, follow the show. Please share it. We want to grow this thing across the country. We love honoring our military, but when we come back, I'll wrap this thing up. Thank you, John. Thank you, Scott. Back in a minute. All right, that's all for today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in today, honoring those who fight in the country that they fight for. Thank you to our co-host, John Reeves. Thank you to our amazing guests, and thank you to all of you who have served. Join us next week for another episode of Operation American Dream.